All right, we're on air. Happy January 12th, everybody. It is 3 days before Backdrop 1.6 release. I'm personally really enjoying the fact that we have feature freeze. I feel like the stress is released a little bit. I feel like the kinds of things we're working on getting in now are sort of reasonable as opposed to the kinds of things we were working on getting in 2 weeks ago, which I don't know. I feel like we did a really good job on managing stress levels on everyone involved. So I'm super excited about Backdrop 1.6. Nate is not with us right now. I'm hoping he will join us shortly, but we'll see. So maybe I'll run through the, actually we talked about all of this stuff already. I don't know, what do you guys, and this is a good question. What do you guys want to talk about this week? Should we look at the list of things that are currently tagged for 1.6 and see if there's anything we should like prioritize and work on in the next few days? Someone have anything you're already working on you want help with? I am working on renaming view modes to display modes, which I think is not super critical, but I would love to do it just because we've put that view modes UI on the manage displays page. I think it'll make more sense to people if the manage displays page is managing display modes. But there is going to be an inconsistency there between the code, where the code everywhere says view_mode, and the UI will now say display mode. But there's also a ton of code comments in all of the code everywhere that refers to them as view modes. So if that pull request gets in, it'll change, like the docs will say like update the display mode, and the code will say view mode. So I think it'll be pretty clear to developers what they're working with, even if they haven't seen it before. So that's what I'm working on today. I don't know what we should talk about. One of the things maybe we should talk about is this issue that Doc Wilmot opened. This is issue number 322 in the backdropcms.org queue. And he brought up the same thing that we talked about, I don't know, 2 months ago or something, about how to restructure our weekly meetings to try and get the most out of it. There are a lot of people that commit this hour on Thursdays to working on Backdrop, and I would love it if we could kind of make the most of this time. The weekly meetings do tend to get a little repetitive, especially if we talk about each thing, like each issue every week, if we explain what they are. I think that's not necessary because most of the people who are in here and a lot of people who watch the video have seen a week before and they know what we're talking about. So I would like to not talk each bullet point to death, but I also think that it would be good if we could find a way to better organize what those bullet points are to make the best use of our time. So I don't know what you guys want to do this week. We have a milestone for 1.5.3 that's like a handful of bug fixes. None of them are super important, but if any of them that get in, that would be great. And we have another milestone for 1.6 that's just a bunch of user experience improvements that I think could get in any time. It would be great if we could list them as things that got into 1.6, but if they don't, it's not the end of the world. I don't know that it's necessarily worth talking about any one of those particular issues in this meeting unless you guys want to. So I'm open to feedback on what would be most beneficial. Or here's a better question. Why are you guys here? What are you hoping to get out of this meeting? Is it the, like, I want to know what everyone's working on thing that we've been talking about for forever? Or is it like, I want something to help with? Or, I don't know, Ryan, you're not here very often. Why are you here today?
Questions before the live broadcast started about the reference module and the rules module. So just kind of keeping up with things.
Okay, that's good.
And I just happen to be wearing my Backdrop hoodie as well, so.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, I think I'm here just to listen to what's going on. I don't really do a whole lot of core dev myself yet, but just as a PMC member, I've been absent, so just trying to figure out what's going on in the project. So. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I know one place that we need a lot of help, and it was also mentioned in Doc Wilmot's blog post. He's trying to help us figure out what our priorities should be for 2017, like figuring out we have a really great way of handling milestones and issues and stuff in the issue queue, but maybe not organizing things bigger picture than that. Like what audiences are we hoping to serve, and are they getting the features they need? And one of the things he mentioned that he found was frustrating as a developer is not getting pull request reviews fast enough. And I think that there's a couple of reasons that is our bottleneck, and it's because not very many people do them. And I know I personally am guilty of not doing pull request reviews because I feel like I'm really bad at it. Like I can do a code review and be like, oh, you forgot a T function here or whatever. But that, like, I don't feel like that's always necessarily enough. Like I don't know. I just feel like I'm really bad at it. It would be great to get, I don't know if any of you feel like you're, have experience in that area and could help, like, maybe write some documentations on like how to write a valuable review, or if we could find something, maybe there's something like that already exists for Drupal, we could rework from a patch review to a pull request review. I think that would help, because right now the only person that is really good at doing pull requests and does them all, or pull request reviews and does them all the time, is Nate. And he is a little bit of a bottleneck because he does it at the is it ready to merge point. And every time something doesn't get reviewed until it's ready to merge, that means the amount of work that it's getting when it gets kicked back is more. Whereas if we could sort of get that review process done earlier, I think it would be more beneficial for people who are working on stuff to get feedback more frequently, but also be less work for Nate by the time it gets to the point where it's about to get in. And that would help alleviate some of the bottleneck there too. So that, I think, is the thing that I would much rather write code than review code. And I have to be much better myself about being like, okay, write a pull request, review 2. And then, okay, now you can go write another one. Where I feel like that's something that I would love to get more people onboarded doing. I especially think that if we can get some clear documentation around how to do it, we might be able to get newer people doing it too, where you don't feel like you need to know all of the systems. If you can just follow the rules and say, oh, you know, I looked at this documentation and the function definition is different than how we're using it, or whatever. I don't know. So that's a thought. Jeff, do you have any ideas on how we could reformat this meeting, or anything you think people should be working on in the next few days?
Yeah, one of the things that Doc Wilmot mentioned is assigning things to people so that people can have an idea of what's responsibility. And sometimes that's probably could be pretty clear, and sometimes that won't be clear. But on the ones that aren't clear, we just don't assign them, I think, and then whoever can get to it gets to it. Like maybe one simple split would be the things that are 1.5.3 and have PRs, assign those to me, which are probably technically not as complicated. And if there is something there complicated, I can kick that up to Nate, and Nate can focus his energies on 1.6.0 pull requests.
Okay.
Maybe that will free up some of his bandwidth. And anything else that's out there. And maybe people be more willing to self-assign things. Like Klonos has been good about, he's like, oh, I'm going to work on this, so he self-assigns it. I've been terrible. I don't ever assign myself to anything.
I started getting good at that about a week ago, where I also noticed that Klonos was self-assigning things, and I'm like, wow, that's so handy. You can look at the issue queue and see what his work should do that. But yeah, that's also super useful, because it, like if there's 6 of us and we're all like, what do we work on? And we want to look at the issue queue and take something no one else is working on. It's pretty easy to say, oh, Klonos is working on that. I'm going to work on this other one. And then unassigning yourself when you're done. So like if you're doing a review, you take it and you review it, and then you untake it, and then someone else might give it another review or work on it or whatever. So that's a great idea, assigning. I also think like one of the things that both Klonos and Doc Wilmot are having trouble with is like when you're working on something that's not super important, how do you get it attention, right? Like it's a user experience improvement. It's not really a bug. Should it be assigned to the 153 milestone or not? Where it's a really quick fix, and if people are like, yes, this is good, you could get it in. But if nobody's looking at it because it's not in the milestone, you can't get it in. So it's stuff like that I think people are struggling with. I don't know what to do
I think we
about
should-
stuff like that.
The tags are super simple. I think they should err on the side of tagging it as 1.5.3 if they think it is that, and then we can move it. It's not hard. So I think
Over
empower
tag
people.
rather than under tag.
Yeah, I think empower people to have that philosophy. And if there is a PR, I guess they could go as far as assigning it to me, and if I think it's beyond my capabilities, I'll assign it to Nate.
Okay. And then, so if we do end up with a ton of stuff in like the 153 milestone, this is something that Nate was struggling with last week, like it then becomes like psychologically overwhelming, like we're never gonna get all of this done. So I think we need another way of prioritizing if we're not just gonna use the milestone, where it's like, we look at bugs first and any issue that has a pull request before any issue that doesn't, like some way where we all know like how do you gauge priority of things. Because right now I think we're using the milestone for that. So then if the milestone gets cluttered, the priority gets lost. And I think that's what Nate has been doing. Like he's been looking at the pull request queue rather than the issue queue and looking for things that are in like needs review status or ready to be committed status. And I think that that's good, except for that then there are things that are more important that maybe aren't getting the attention they need because they're always in needs work. But then they get overlooked because I don't know if we have a good way of solving this problem. We don't really have great tags, tagging ability. But that's a thought too. We could create more regular tags, like rather than milestone tags, and have one that's just like priority or something. I don't know how we gauge when to use it. Same kind of problem.
Yeah, Ryan, you can filter the issue queue by things that are tagged for 153 and things that need review and or things that have a pull request. So if you want, I put a link in there that's pre-filtered to 153 and needs review, so you can click on that. That's a pre-filtered list.
Killer, thanks.
Yeah, if you can review some of those, that would be super helpful.
And there's two of those. There's one for 153 and there's one for 16.
Yep.
The labels are so pretty. It's Easter preparation.
Yep.
All right. Well, I think that this is kind of the same problem we had 2 months ago when we're like, we know we need to change the structure of the weekly meetings, but we don't know how to do it. I would love to try something different after Backtrack 16 is out. I feel like it's a good time. Like we aren't going to have any looming deadlines urgently. If anyone has any ideas or project management skills or meeting running experience, I would love to kind of do an overhaul and see what kind of changes we can make. Like maybe we should like time box it to half an hour instead of an hour, and change the format somehow. I don't know.
Yeah, I think if you time box it to half an hour and try to focus on assigning things that can be assigned, and then if we need to overflow outside of the recording to like maybe deep dive into a particular issue where someone's blocked on, we could do that off air. I think
That's a great idea. Okay. Well, I will take a stab at a new outline format and things that can be assigned to people, and maybe we can even do it ahead of time. So I'll create a draft of next week's agenda and I'll put people's names on there and we'll see. And that way, if people want to talk to those issues, they'll know ahead of time. And if there are issues we don't know who to assign to, we can figure out who to do that in the meeting, and then they'll have advance notice for the next meeting. So it's a good idea. We'll time box it to half an hour. I'll shorten the Google Calendar invites to half an hour, and we'll just have to be really good about like if we start having a good conversation, we'll say this is a good conversation. We're going to wait till later, and maybe we can put that in the notes at the bottom of the agenda, like this is what we're going to talk about after recording ends or whatever. So we just have that documented too. Okay, was there anything else you guys want to talk about today? Questions, comments, feedback, anything anyone needs help on?
Just a quick question. I've been totally missing meetings lately, but are the outreach meetings continuing to happen?
So we had one today.
Cool.
So today's focus was supposed to be on what we're doing for Backdrop 1.6, which is basically just a blog post and a newsletter. And I talked Tom, thank you, Tom, into writing a blog post. And then we're going to send that over to Facet Interactive to send it out as our newsletter for us. And hopefully they'll be able to manage our newsletters going forward, which is fantastic. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of other stuff we need to do regarding outreach too, but we didn't talk about this week. And I think, yeah, just trying to figure out how to prioritize and get that stuff done is also something that we're not very good at. I would love it if we could get more help in that area. It's just something my brain doesn't do really well, and I know it's important. But I was also thinking that Mike may be able to get Facet Interactive to help with too. We have a agreement about them managing the newsletter in exchange for putting their name in the bottom of the newsletter, which seemed kind of like a no-brainer. But if we are going to ask them to do a whole bunch of other stuff too, we might need to figure out how much they're willing to donate. So.
Cool. Thanks for that update. I'll try to make those outreach meetings more.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, we're at our time box half an hour. Good job, everyone. Back to the issue queues, I guess. Thanks for joining.
Cool. Good to see y'all. Take care.